The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow over Terminal B of Middleton International Airport. It was nearly midnight, and the usual bustle of travelers had thinned to a sparse handful of late flights and red-eyed passengers slumped in stiff seats. Among them sat a girl, no older than 10, legs swinging from the edge of a cracked full-leather bench, a pink backpack clutched to her chest. Her name was Aria. She had been waiting for over an hour now, just as her mother had instructed. "Wait here. Daddy's coming for you," she'd said, kneeling in front of her, hands trembling. Aria hadn't asked why she wasn't flying with her. She knew better. Grown-ups always had their reasons, and her mother had sounded scared, like she was trying not to cry. At first, the silence didn't bother her. She liked airports. The sound of rolling suitcases and the smell of coffee made her feel like she was going somewhere exciting. But now it felt different. Cold.
Wrong.
She glanced at the departure board. The flight her father was supposed to arrive on, Flight 417 from Chicago, had already landed. 10 minutes ago. The crowd had dispersed. No one had come for her. Aria slipped off the bench and approached the large glass windows facing the runway. A fog had rolled in thick and low, swallowing the blinking lights of parked planes. She pressed her palm to the glass and frowned. He should be here by now. Behind her, a janitor pushed a cart along the polished floor. He didn't look at her. Most people hadn't. Maybe they assumed her parents were close by. Maybe they didn't see her at all. Another 10 minutes passed. Then came the voice. "Aria?" She spun around. A man stood near the sliding doors of Terminal B. He was tall, dressed in a dark suit, and holding a leather briefcase in one hand. His face was in shadow, but something about his posture felt familiar. "Daddy," she called. He didn't move. She walked closer, heart fluttering. As she stepped under the harsh light, the man finally raised his head. It was him, her father. But there was something wrong. He looked tired. His skin was pale and waxy, like he hadn't slept in days or weeks. His eyes were sunken, glassy, like he was seeing through her rather than at her. And his smile was all wrong, strained and stiff, like it hurt to move his lips. "I've missed you, sweetheart," he said, voice dry and brittle. Aria hesitated. "You look different," she whispered. He crouched down slowly, his knees cracking like dry branches. "It's been a long trip. Come on, let's get you home." She stared at him. "Where's Mom?" His smile twitched. "She had to leave early. She said goodbye." That wasn't true. Aria had seen her mother run out of the terminal, eyes wide with panic. She hadn't said goodbye. Still, she took a step forward. He held out his hand, but didn't move closer. His fingers were too still, like they weren't even alive. "Come on, Aria." She looked down at his shoes. They were caked in mud or something darker. She couldn't tell. Something in her chest screamed, not to go. But she was tired,
Scared.
and alone. Her hand inched toward his. Then came the second voice. "Don't." It was a whisper, like wind through a broken window. Aria turned her head. No one was there. She looked back, and the man was gone.
Just gone.
Her heart pounded. Her hand shook. The terminal was now completely empty. Even the janitor had vanished. Her footsteps echoed as she backed away from the doors and returned to the bench. Her pink backpack felt heavier now, like it carried more than books and snacks. She waited. Time passed. More than an hour later, a security officer found her curled up on the bench, fast asleep. Tears dried on her cheeks. "Hey there, kiddo," he said gently, kneeling beside her. "Are you lost?" Aria sat up and rubbed her eyes. "My dad came to pick me up, but he disappeared." The officer frowned. "What's your father's name?" "Michael Kessler." He paused, lips parting slightly. "Sweetheart," he said carefully, "Michael Kessler died 3 years ago. Plane crash. Same terminal." Aria stared at him.
No.
"That's wrong. He was right here." The officer stood, exchanging a worried glance with his partner. But Aria didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on the glass doors at the edge of the terminal. Because just beyond them, through the fog, She could see the shape of a man.
Standing.
Waiting.
Smiling.
The next morning, Arya sat in a small airport office wrapped in a scratchy blanket, sipping hot cocoa that had long gone cold. The security officer, Officer Langley, was talking in hushed tones to a woman in a navy pantsuit outside the glass partition. Her badge read, Airport Operations, G. Riley. They kept looking at her like she was made of glass. Like if they said the wrong thing, she'd shatter. Arya stared blankly at the floor. Her pink backpack sat on the chair beside her, untouched. When Officer Langley returned, he crouched beside her again.
Hey, Arya.
Do you remember what time your father came to meet you last night? She nodded slowly. It was after his flight landed. Flight 417. Langley's eyes darted up to Riley, who stepped into the room. Arya, the woman said gently, there hasn't been a flight 417 from Chicago for 3 years. That route was cancelled after the crash. Arya shook her head. But it said so on the board. I saw it. Riley hesitated, then walked over to her computer, typed something in, and turned the monitor to show Arya. This is a live feed of all active arrivals. There's no flight 417 anymore. And last night there wasn't anything scheduled near that time. Arya's hands gripped the cup tighter. I saw him, she said, her voice trembling. He called my name. He was right there. Langley gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Maybe you saw someone who looked like him. Sometimes our minds play tricks when we're scared. No, Arya whispered. It was him. But he didn't look right. And something told me not to go. The room fell into silence. Riley exchanged another look with Langley. Then, lowering her voice, said, What gate were you near when you saw him? Gate 17, Arya replied. Right at the end. That time, both adults stiffened. Langley cleared his throat. Arya, Gate 17 has been shut down since the crash. It's under renovation. No passengers go there anymore. Arya's heart skipped. But that's where Mom told me to wait. There were seats.
Lights.
I saw the flight board right above me. There's no power down there, Riley said quietly. None. Later that afternoon, Arya was moved to the airport's family holding area while social services were contacted. Her mother hadn't answered any calls. No one had seen her leave the building. Cameras near Terminal B showed nothing, except Arya sitting on the bench alone. No man in a suit. No father. Just her. That night, unable to sleep, Arya wandered out of the room. No one noticed her small frame slip through the maintenance hallway and back toward Terminal B. The airport was quieter now, the low hum of lights mixing with distant echoes. She didn't know why she was drawn there again. Only that something inside her whispered, Come back. The corridors narrowed as she descended toward the sealed section of the terminal. A flickering sign still clung to the ceiling above the hallway. Gates 14 to 17. Yellow tape blocked the entrance, and a metal chain hung loosely across the door. But the padlock wasn't latched. She pushed it open. Inside, the lights were dim. Dust clung to the air, and the floor was littered with old travel brochures and faded stickers from years ago. But one light was still on. At the end of the corridor. Gate 17. It glowed like a ghost, beckoning her forward. As she walked, her footsteps echoed too loud, like the hallway was much bigger than it should have been. The further she went, the colder it got. Her breath fogged in front of her. Then, just ahead, the terminal waiting area appeared. And there he was, sitting in the same seat as before, staring out the window. Her father. Arya didn't run this time. She crept forward, stopping a few feet from him. Why are you here? She whispered. He turned slowly, his face pale and drawn. His eyes, once warm and familiar, looked like marbles sunk too deep in his skull. I never left, he said softly. She shook her head. You're dead. Yes. His voice held no emotion.
But you called me.
You waited for me. No, I didn't. He pointed behind her. She turned. The bench. Her pink backpack. The cup of cocoa. All of it was still sitting there. But she was there, too. Curled up.
Still.
unmoving. Arya gasped. That's not. You've been here since last night, her father said, rising. His movements were stiff and unnatural. You never left this place. I did. The officers, Riley Langley, they talked to me. They talked to what they thought was you. But you stayed. Part of you never left this gate. No, she said, backing away. That's not true. Her father stepped closer. The shadows deepened around him, swallowing the edges of his form. I didn't mean for this to happen, Arya. But now that you're here, we can be together again. She stumbled, hitting the edge of a bench. From behind her, the window creaked. She turned and saw the fog had cleared. A plane sat on the tarmac, burned and broken, its tail number charred but still visible. 417. The same flight. Its doors were open, and shadows moved inside. Watching. Waiting. Come with me, her father whispered. No, Arya said, tears streaming down her cheeks. You're not him. You're not my dad. The thing in front of her paused, then smiled. And this time, the smile was wrong, jagged, splitting his face too wide, revealing teeth that weren't human. No, it rasped. But he never left either. And behind it, more figures stepped from the gate shadows. Passengers. Flight attendants. Faces warped by fire and time, all staring at her with empty, glassy eyes. They reached for her. Arya turned and ran. The hallway stretched longer than before, bending in unnatural ways. Doors appeared and vanished. Lights flickered violently. The air grew colder. She didn't look back. Not even when the whispers started again. Arya, come back. She burst into the main corridor and slammed the gate door behind her. The yellow tape fluttered, and the padlock fell into place with a loud clink. Then silence. She stood there, panting, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Behind the locked door, nothing. No lights. No voices. Just darkness. She turned to find Officer Langley and several airport staff racing toward her.
Arya.
Where have you been? I went back, she gasped. To gate 17. He was there. The plane. It was real. Langley crouched beside her again. You're okay. You're safe now. She stared at the sealed hallway.
No.
I'm not. Arya didn't speak for hours. After they found her near the locked gate, she was taken back to the family room, this time under stricter watch. But even with guards outside the door, she felt unsafe, as if the things she had seen could pass through walls and locks if it wanted to. She kept glancing at the window, waiting for the fog to roll back in. Across the terminal, Officer Langley sat with Riley in her office, voice low and grim. She was there, Riley. In the restricted section. That gate's been sealed for years. How the hell did she even know where it was? She didn't just know where it was, Riley replied, pulling out a manila folder. She knew the flight number. She knew what time it was supposed to land. Langley frowned. You think she's somehow hacked the arrivals board? She's a 10-year-old. Riley opened the folder and pulled out a sheet of paper, an old flight manifest from 3 years ago. Flight 417. This is where it gets worse, she said. There was a girl listed on this manifest. Flying to Middleton with her father. Her name was... She hesitated. Arya Kessler. Langley blinked. You're saying she was on the flight?
Yes.
And according to this, she died. Along with her father. That doesn't make sense. I talked to her. I saw her walk into the room. We called social services. Hell, we even got her prints. Riley pushed the folder toward him. Read the death certificate. Arya Kessler. Age 7. Body unrecovered. Langley stood up, suddenly cold. Then what the hell have we been talking to? That night, Arya had a dream. She was standing alone on the tarmac. The fog swirled thick around her, and in the distance, she could hear the low hum of an approaching plane. But it wasn't flying. It was gliding. Burnt. Blackened. Dragging itself across the runway like a wounded animal. Its landing gear was shattered. Its nose was cracked open like a skull. And inside, figures moved.
Dozens of them.
Some burned. Some missing faces. All watching her. At the front stood her father. "Arya," he said, voice echoing through the mist. "We're going home." She shook her head. "I already did. I'm not part of that flight anymore." "You never left," he said. "You stayed. You waited." Then the plane's door opened, and her own face looked back at her from inside. But it was younger.
Pale.
Lifeless. Her other self reached out and whispered, "We're not finished." She woke up screaming. Langley was the first through the door. Arya clung to him, sobbing. "I don't want to go back. Don't let them take me." "You're not going anywhere," he said, holding her tight. Riley arrived moments later, holding the manifest. "I need to ask you something," she said softly. "Can you look at this?" Arya wiped her tears and looked at the paper. Her face drained of color. "That's the flight." She pointed to the names. "That's me. That's my dad." Langley knelt beside her. "But, Arya, you're here. You're alive." She looked up at him, eyes glassy. "Am I?" The question hung in the air like smoke. The next morning, an emergency maintenance crew was sent to Gate 17 to reseal it completely. Metal shutters were bolted over the entrance. No one wanted to admit why, but the orders were clear. That section of the terminal is not to be accessed ever again. But Arya knew it wasn't enough. She sat at the window, watching the sky shift from gray to black as another storm rolled in. "They're still calling to me," she whispered. "They won't stop." Langley sat beside her. "Then we have to end it."
She turned. "How?"
He didn't have an answer. Not yet. But she did. That night, with Riley's reluctant approval, Langley and Arya returned to Gate 17. She insisted it had to be her alone, but he refused to let her go in without backup. The corridor was colder than ever before. Even the air seemed different, thinner. Time slowed as they stepped past the sealed doors and into the darkness. But this time, there was no light at Gate 17. Only shadows. Arya walked forward, the pink backpack on her shoulders like armor. Her small shoes echoed across the broken tiles. Then, as they reached the terminal, the fog crept in once more. And the plane returned. Whole now.
Perfect.
Gleaming as though it had never crashed. Its door opened with a hiss. And her father stepped out. But this time he looked different. No longer monstrous. No wide smile. No glassy eyes. Just a man. Tired. Grieving. He knelt in front of her. "I've been looking for you," he said softly. "I'm not supposed to be here," Arya replied. "I'm not part of this anymore." He looked away, ashamed.
"No."
"You're not." I held on too tightly. I didn't want to let go. "You have to," she whispered. "We both do." Behind him, the passengers of Flight 417 gathered. Silent. Watching. Waiting for closure. She reached into her backpack and pulled out something wrapped in cloth, a small toy airplane, charred and broken. The one she'd been holding the day of the crash. Somehow, she'd been carrying it all this time. She handed it to him. "It's time to go home." He took it in his hands and stood, tears in his eyes. "I'll see you again someday." "Not for a long time," she smiled. And with that, he turned. He walked up the steps of the Phantom plane. One by one, the others followed. And when the last passenger boarded, the door shut. The plane began to fade. First the lights, then the outline, then the fog, until it was gone. Gate 17 was empty, and the silence was no longer heavy. It was peaceful. Arya never returned to the airport after that. She was placed in foster care, far from Middleton. Riley kept the terminal permanently sealed, and Langley eventually retired early. But every year, on the anniversary of the crash, a flight is listed for exactly 1 minute on the arrivals board. Flight 417. From nowhere. Arriving at midnight. And sometimes, if the fog rolls in thick and slow, you might see a little girl waiting at the terminal. Just for a moment. Before she fades back into the mist.